Hello, everyone. This is Tom Brew with Fastball on SI, and welcome to our episode 4 of the Payoff Pitch podcast. Happy to have the full team together this week. We got Jack Ankony live from Chicago and Brady Farkas from the palatial estate in New York, and ready to talk a whole lot of baseball today. Got a lot going on. It's been a really good week of things, so lots of topics to dive into. So certainly, I think going to be a fun, very entertaining podcast for all. And Jack, I thought if you would, we'll start with you. I think let's kind of zero in on the National League Central a little bit. There's two things I wanted to discuss with you, and certainly have Brady weigh in on as well. But let's start with the column you wrote the other day about Paul Skeens and the Pittsburgh Pirates, and and just how great he's been so far, and what the Pirates are doing around him so far. I mean, obviously you wrote that they're wasting his time and his talent right now by not building a team around him. And so weigh in with us on that, and what, if anything, you think the Pirates will do with this in this next little short window of the next couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, sort of the gist of the column was that I was just watching Skeens the other day, and he's such a rare talent. Got the 100-mile-an-hour fastball, got the crazy breaking pitches, and he's so young. And yet the Pirates this offseason only spent about, I think, 18 or 19 million. They have one of the lower payrolls in baseball. Really didn't do much to kind of build a competitive roster. And you might say, oh, well, they were just in a position to draft number 1 overall last year. They're not ready to win now, but they haven't really been in a position where they're spending to win really in the last decade or so, or even longer. They haven't shown motivation to spend like a team that is trying to win. And I think it's just a shame when you see this guy who could be on pace to have an all-time career. And there's plenty of time for them to fix that. He's still very young, and they can change the fact that they're kind of wasting some of these years with him. But I just was sort of watching him and thinking, man, it's a shame that this team isn't better, because he's the type of pitcher that is electric to watch and would be great to see in a playoff atmosphere. And Pittsburgh's got such a great stadium and everything, and I just think it's too bad that they're not more competitive and trying to win, because you compare their revenue numbers to some other teams. Like I mentioned in the column, the Diamondbacks just signed Corbin Burns to a big deal, and their revenue numbers are pretty similar to the Pirates. So I think that kind of shows that they can be doing more to winning, and they're just sort of choosing not to.
Yeah.
What's interesting, I was going to say, what's interesting too is, like, one, the division is attainable. Okay.
Right.
The division is, I think, interesting, but I don't think that there are any world beaters in there. Okay. The Cubs are in first place at 12-7 as we record this, and they're playing well. But I don't think, especially with the Justin Steele injury, and you can't predict that going into a season, but I don't think I looked at the Cubs and said, okay, that team is going to run away with the division. I think the division has been there for the taking. The Cubs, I don't think, are world beaters. The Reds, I think, are interesting but average. The Brewers, I think, are interesting but regressed from a year ago and losing Willy Adames. So I think that the division was there for the taking. The other thing that's interesting, Jack, is, like, the Pirates have done a lot of other things well that we want teams to do well, right? Like, they've developed some talent. They've locked up young talent. They locked up Brian Hayes. They've got Jared Jones, though injured now. They've got Jared Jones. They've got Skeens. They've got Bubba Chandler waiting in the minor leagues. And they locked up Ryan Reynolds as well, who was kind of their established star. So they have spent some money. They have locked up guys early. They have drafted and developed well to a point. It's the rest of the roster that they seem to refuse to fill out.
Yep, and that's my next question for you, Brady, in regards, because obviously we spent a lot of time looking at minor league farm systems too. Are the Pirates in a situation where they maybe have the next wave coming? Do they have 3 or 4 guys at the AAA level that they think can help soon, or do they need to find talent elsewhere going forward. Certainly, maybe not for 2025, but if they want to contend as soon as next year, I mean, do they need to go elsewhere for talent, or do they have enough in the pipeline to help coming up from AAA?
Well, they don't have what the Mariners have. They don't have what the Rays have. But look, Bubba Chandler is one of the top pitching prospects in baseball. And you look at a three-headed monster maybe early as next year with Jared Jones, Paul Skeens, and Bubba Chandler. That right there becomes one of the best young rotations in all of baseball. That's something you can absolutely build around. Position player-wise, there are some guys who have kind of lost their star prospect-wise. Tamar Johnson is a guy. Henry Davis, the former number 1 pick in the draft. Those guys are not as highly regarded as they were. But there are guys there, especially on the pitching side, which is, sometimes the thing that is hardest to build. And they've got that pipeline for sure, especially, they still have Mitch Keller there also.
Yep. And all right. So one other thing I want to deal with in the NL Central before we go, Jack, obviously you wrote about Justin Steele and his season-ending injury for the Cubs, and tough break. I mean, he's one of my favorite pitchers to watch when he's healthy, but he's just really struggled to stay healthy. So I'm curious, Jack. The Cubs, to me, are the best team in this division, and to start 12-7 like they have when their schedule was very front-loaded, with games against the Dodgers and Padres, and they've survived it all pretty well. I mean, are they at the point where and not waiting until the end of July, but maybe going out and trying to find another established starter somewhere, sooner rather than later?
Well, I wouldn't expect them to make a trade in April, but I think, if they get to a point, I think they're going to give guys like they just called up Jordan Wicks, who is their former first-round pick. They have Colin Ray, who is sort of a, kind of an established veteran who's kind of been a reliever and a starter at different points in his career. They've given Ben Brown some chances, and he's been kind of up and down, but clearly pretty talented. Cade Horton is a prospect who they still haven't called up, but maybe they'd give him a shot too. I think they're going to see if they can make it work. Javier Assad also made his rehab start, and he was a really underrated good piece for them last year in the pitching staff. So I don't think they're going to panic and try to make a big trade right now or maybe in the next month or so. I think they like what they have with the pitching depth, which is obviously a benefit. But if they get to the point in June where they've given up this division lead and they don't feel good about the long-term prospects of some of their younger pitchers, I could see them in June going after it and making a big trade. I've seen guys like Sandy Alcantara, Pablo Lopez be mentioned as some trade candidates to really solidify that rotation. And I think there's reason to believe that they would make a big move like that, because you've seen Jed Hoyer in potentially his final year as the Cubs president, made obviously the big move with Kyle Tucker. So it could be sort of if you want to call it, maybe not an all-in type of year, but really go after it this type of year, because I think they left a little bit out on the table in terms of free agency, but maybe this Steele injury kind of accelerates that trade process for them. Not only for pitching, but maybe even for a third baseman too. I don't think they're going to give up on Matt Shaw, obviously, but they just sent him down to AAA, and he's going to get a little bit more work. Didn't have a great start to his MLB career, and kind of the replacements for him, like Justin Turner, Gage Workman, are probably not long-term options. So I think if they're in a position where they need to they see a hole that they can't fill internally, I could see them making a big move or two closer to the trade deadline. I don't think too soon, but maybe in June or July.
Brady, you've seen this with a lot of teams through the years that are sort of one of those on the cusp teams where it's there for the taking if they make all the right moves. And we mentioned earlier when we were talking about the Pirates how the National League Central is not a division that's going to take 100 wins to win it. So it's so when it's a team like the Cubs, and they certainly have the money if they choose to spend it, they do have to sort of be all in on a season like this, don't they?
They do. The thing that's frustrating, though, about baseball right now is I think we all looked at it and said that extra wild card teams would keep everybody around the race and therefore make everybody more in tune with kind of going for it. Well, it's kind of had the opposite effect where teams are like, we don't need to go all in because you no longer need to win 95 games to guarantee yourself a playoff berth. Let's just win 86 games, sneak in, and then see if we can get hot. So teams have kind of relegated themselves to that way of thinking where they don't have to go all in. So I think the Cubs can win the division potentially with what they've got. They made the big swing to go get Kyle Tucker. Maybe that helps them track down Milwaukee in the division, but it shouldn't just be about tracking down Milwaukee. It should be about how can we beat the Dodgers? How can we beat the Phillies? How can we beat the Padres? How can we beat the Braves, who we thought were going to be excellent, right? Teams should be willing to not just do enough to try to skate into the playoffs as the third wild card team, or maybe just eke out their division with 88 games. They should be willing to go all in and figure out, okay, how can we take down the best teams in the sport? I think the Cubs are probably good enough right now to win the division, but I don't think they're good enough to win the World Series. And isn't that the ultimate goal?
Absolutely, it is. No question about it. Let's switch over to the American League for now. It's kind of interesting. We're basically 20 games in for most everybody, and outside of the White Sox, who obviously set a record last year with 121 losses and are on pace to do that again. It's amazing that of the other 14 teams in the American League, no one has more than 12 wins. No one has more than 12 losses. I mean, you've basically got an entire league at the moment that is more or less playing similar baseball. And, but it seems kind of weird, Brady, that really like so far, there's really been no one in the American League that stood out and said, hey, we're the best team in this league.
American League is very mediocre at this point. Again, 20 games is basically the equivalent of one NFL game. So I understand things will happen and things will change and things will evolve, but there looks to be no great team in the American League. And I would look at it and say there's probably you'd probably rank 5 or 6 National League teams in your power rankings before you even got to one American League team. The American League teams we think are good come with massive questions. The Yankees obviously have questions in the rotation without Luis Gil and without Garrett Cole. They still don't have Giancarlo Stanton. Jazz Chisholm is hitting 169. I know he's got 6 homers, but he's hitting 169. So and they've lost Soto. So they've got questions. The Red Sox lead the world in errors, and their rotation has been battered. So those are teams we thought would be really good out of the AL East. The entire AL West has a negative run differential. No one in that division has scored more runs than their opponents. And the AL Central has 3 teams under 500 right now, at least. And I would say the Royals are one of the biggest disappointments in baseball. So a lot of mediocre teams, but it is going to make for an interesting summer, and that I do think a lot of teams are going to be around it. And you're going to see some of these wild fluctuations, right? Teams going to lose 6 straight and we think they're done. They're going to win 4 straight the next week and we're going to think they're back. I think that's going to be kind of the way that this season goes in the AL.
Yeah, and what's been interesting to me so far too in the American League Central is that the Tigers are leading the division and the Guardians are at 500 and second, but both of them have only lost 1 game at home. They've been really good at home, but they get out on the road and they get smacked around a little bit. So I think, like, to me, if and I agree with you, Brady. I think the Royals are among the disappointments, in the American League so far. I think I'd throw the Rays in there too, to be honest. I think for an AL Central team to kind of like separate themselves from the pack, I got to see those teams start to win on the road a little bit. And Jack, you've had a chance to see the Tigers and the Guardians both, when they played the White Sox and such. That's kind of a fair statement, right? Like, learning how to win on the road for these teams is going to probably separate them a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think so for sure. And, I believe we all picked different teams to win the AL Central, if I'm not mistaken. And my pick was the Twins, which is not looking good right now, but they've had a bunch of injuries. And I think if they can get some guys healthy, it's not like I'm seeing a whole lot from the Tigers or Guardians that leads me to believe they're just going to pull away with this division. So I think it's still out there for the taking. Like, the Tigers have had some guys kind of have some resurgent seasons, like Spencer Torkelson and some other guys, and Scooble's looks like he's back to his kind of Cy Young form after a few shaky starts to begin the season. But Yeah, that whole division, like Brady mentioned, everyone but the Tigers has a negative differential of 11 runs or more. So it's been pretty rough going, and you're not going to gain any ground on people if you're just winning your home games and losing your road games, obviously. But I expect that one to kind of be what we thought going into the year, like maybe high 80s wins that division, because it just doesn't seem like anyone um, is going to be able to do enough to really run away with it.
Yeah, and Brady, let's talk a little bit about your beloved American League West. I think we sort of have the same situation there. I mean, all 5 teams playing relatively decent baseball at times, but nobody really running away with it and such. But it's the same thing with the Rangers. The Rangers are 9-1 at home as well too, which I think has certainly made a difference for them. They swept the Rays there. They've been playing really well at home, and then, of course, the Angels, because of the schedule flip flop, they've only even played 3 home games so far. It's and really, I sort of look at that division as like no one stinks. I mean, the Astros are, the Houston Astros are in last place, at 8-10. So it's I think you've got 5 teams in that division, Brady, that are still certainly well worth talking about, even in mid-April.
Yeah, I think this one, again, all of these teams are flawed and they all have potential, but they all have real questions. Okay. I think the Rangers probably have the most talent in the division, right? And they've won the World Series just 2 years ago, and they have a lot of guys back from that team: Seager, Simeon, Adolis Garcia, Jonah Heim. But a lot of their success is going to be predicated on, can their pitching keep this up, right? We think of the Rangers as an offensive-minded team that can't pitch. Well, this year it's been basically reversed. They've been a team that can pitch well and hasn't been able to hit. So if they get everything jiving, then I think they are the best team. But Jacob deGrom comes with a question mark every time he takes the mound. Are they going to get 30 starts from him, or are they going to get 13 starts from him? And I think the answer to that goes a long way in determining how they end up this season. Okay, the Mariners are playing much better, and a lot of their under-the-hood metrics actually look better offensively than they've shown. They're back over 500 at 10-9. Their pitching hasn't been as good as we would expect, but they've already experienced 2 massive injuries, and if they were to experience a third, I don't know that they have the talent depth to come back from that, especially if it ends up being a pitcher. The Angels, I just don't think are that talented. I don't think that they're going to stick in this race for long. I think the A's have talent, but that ballpark is going to limit them. And the Astros, I think, are still good. They're still the boogeyman. They're still the Astros. And they have some guys coming back from injury. I don't know how much of an impact a Lance McCullers will make or a Christian Javier will make. So I don't think the Astros are done and down and out, but I do not think they're as good. I think this division is won with 86, 87 wins.
Yeah, I certainly see that. And I don't think any of us expect the A's to win that division, but there's been certainly an interesting storyline with them. We all need to learn the name Tyler Soderstrom. He's Jackie was just in Chicago with the White Sox. He's leading the American League with 9 home runs. And, a lot of people thought, well, the A's are playing that little bandbox in Sacramento, but 7 of his 9 home runs are on the road. So I think, do we have, Jack, a legitimate star in the making here with this Tyler Soderstrom guy?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to chime in. I was, all series, I was like, well, is this just because the A's are playing the White Sox and, the Sox pitching staff is not that good, or do they actually have something here? And I mean, I'm not going too far to say that I think the A's are going to win this division or anything, but I was really impressed with that lineup, kind of up and down. And it starts with Soderstrom. There was one home run that he hit, I think it was in game 3, where the wind was howling in and in from right field, and he put it, probably 10 or 15 rows back. And I thought that really just kind of showed his power. And I think that lineup with Rooker and Blade, they got Lawrence Butler, who I think is a really solid leadoff hitter, really fast guy. Jacob Wilson drove in a bunch of runs in that series. Don't want to make too big of overreactions because they were playing against the White Sox, but I was really impressed with them, and so much to the point where I was seeing a lot of talk just from other fan bases on social media throughout the weekend about, like, hey, what would the A's be willing to do to give up this Soderstrom guy? Because, he's right up there with the Aaron Judges and all those other guys on the home run leaderboard right now. And been a really impressive start for him. I'm not totally sure about their pitching staff and how much They can carry them. Obviously, they got Mason Miller in the back end, but definitely a dominant series for them to really just wipe out the White Sox in 3 games.
Yeah, and Brady, you pay attention to the A's enough just by them passing through a lot of AL West teams. They are certainly better, but and I think from an entertainment standpoint, they're a fun team to watch. I don't know about their long-standing ability to hang in there, but they certainly are an entertaining team to watch, aren't they?
Their lineup is pesky. I was impressed by them as well, right? I saw them opening weekend in Seattle for 4 games in which they split with the Mariners, and their lineup's just pesky, right? They make contact, they put the ball in play. They do have some guys that can hit the ball out of the ballpark. They got some guys that can run, and that the top 4 or 5 of that lineup is pretty deep and is pretty solid with the guys that Jack mentioned. The thing will be the pitching. Severino at the top is their number 1, but is he really a true number 1? JP Sears, Jeffrey Springs, they both throw strikes, but they're soft tossing lefties. Does that work for 32 games or for 32 starts this year? And then beyond that, they don't really have a 4 and 5 that you can count on. And then in the bullpen, Mason Miller's electric, but beyond that, they don't have that much in the bullpen either. So I do think they'll fall, but they were one of the better teams in baseball second half of the year last year. Like, their young core is good, and their young core will keep them exciting, and I think will keep them relevant, especially in this division. I don't think they have the pitching, but should they be willing to continue to invest in that as they move forward the next few years, on their road to Vegas, then I think they will continue to be interesting.
Yeah, I think so. And Brady, obviously you write a whole lot about the Mariners for us on all of our various on SI channels and such, and you talk a lot about them a lot on your Refuse to Lose podcast and such. But I wanted to just on this bit more of a national platform talk about the Mariners a little bit with you, because they did something yesterday that seems to have been lacking with them the last handful of years of being down in a game late, and Cal Raleigh and Randy Arozarena hit back-to-back homers to get them right back in it, and then they wind up winning in extra innings. And it seems like this year it's too early to tell if it's going to be a trend or not, but it seems like this year they're doing a little bit better job of finding ways to win games late.
I don't know that I would call the Mariners good yet, but what I will call them is gritty. And under Dan Wilson, they seem to be having that grit, that never give up attitude. And the thing that's really changed for them, Tom, is simply put, they're putting the ball in play. Last year, they led baseball in strikeouts. I believe they set an MLB record for strikeouts in the season. Someone can check me on that, but they were definitely number 1 in baseball in most strikeouts. Okay. This year, going into yesterday, they were 12th. And that is a significant improvement from where they were. Okay, through the first 16 games in 2024, they had 11 double-digit strikeout games. Through the first 16 games in 2025, they had 3 double-digit strikeout games. Good things happen when you put the ball in play, right? And we saw Ellie De La Cruz, I think, make 4 errors this series for the Reds. That's in part because the Mariners simply put the bat on the ball. We are starting to see, hey, ball gets put in play, tough pitch gets fought off. Hey, there's the blooper in the left field. Okay, it's not only home runs. They lead the American League, in stolen bases. They've cut down on the strikeouts. They do have some guys who can pop the ball over the fence. They are an imperfect lineup. They still have guys that are hitting under 200, too many of them. They still have guys that will get themselves out occasionally. But their offense looks much better, and they are developing this kind of grit, this kind of toughness that good teams have. I'm not ready to say that they're good, but they have qualities that good teams have.
Absolutely. I think we're seeing that. Obviously, to me, what will make them good, especially with their starting pitching, what will make them good to me is if they have a stretch that comes up here sort of whenever, where they go 11-4 or they go 12-3 or something like that, where they just play well every day for a couple of weeks. I think that's something as Mariners fans that they've been clamoring for and hoping for years. But I think especially with their starting pitching the way it is, that they're capable of having that and doing that. So it's hopefully we'll see how that goes. All right, let's kind of wrap everything up today. Let's talk about the division that's it's been turning heads in baseball all year long in the National League West. We've got obviously the Colorado Rockies are a mess, probably the worst team in baseball. But the other 4 teams are right now a combined 31 games over 500. And we talked last week about the Dodgers and the Padres and the Giants being really well. But now here, all of a sudden, here come the Arizona Diamondbacks. They won the American League or National League pennant 2 years ago. They did a lot of nice stuff in the offseason, and they just won 5 in a row, and they're right in the mix too. And Brady, let's start with you on that. I mean, to me, this is going to be a division that's just going to be fun to watch, especially when they all start to play each other.
Yeah, certainly. And the Diamondbacks are impressive in this regard also. They're doing this with Corbin Burnes having an ERA over 5, I believe, entering his start on Friday against the Cubs. He's got one of the worst hard hit rates in baseball. So this is your big money acquisition, your former Cy Young winner, that's really not contributing at this point. So if and when he turns it around, they get better. Ketel Marte, their MVP candidate's on the injured list right now. So if and when he comes back, they get better. So they're already good. Corbin Carroll looks like the MVP candidate that he was 2 years ago again. That's big. They're seeing contributions from, I think, Justin Martinez in the bullpen, who's just going viral everywhere for his 90-mile-an-hour splitter. Good back end of the bullpen, depth up and down the lineup, a championship manager in Torey Lovello. Diamondbacks are good, and they only get better when Burnes gets right and Marte gets back.
Yeah, I think so. And Burnes just hasn't had a good start yet. He's pitched. He's had 3 starts, given up at least 3 runs in every start, and has not really. He's only had 3 strikeouts his last 2 games as well too. We're not seeing the swing and miss from Corbin Burnes that we saw last year when he was with the Orioles and such. But still, they keep same thing. I mean, I think we learned a lot about them during that playoff run in 23. Just how deep their lineup is, that they can have those innings where, hitters 5 through 9 will generate a couple of runs here and there all the time. And I like their bullpen. I think they've got enough stuff to keep it going. And, but obviously everybody in that division is playing well. The Giants to me are a little bit of a pleasant surprise, but Jack, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the Dodgers and the Padres, because you've seen them a ton with the Cubs. I mean, they, I know we talked about it at the beginning, our very first podcast, about how good the Dodgers are. But I told everybody day one that I think the Padres are capable of hanging with them through the course of the season, and certainly making it tough on them in a playoff series. But you've seen a lot of them. You got to be impressed with both of those teams.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think we all picked the Dodgers to win the division going into the year, but the Padres look like they're going to be tough. I mean, watching that Cubs-Padres series that just wrapped up, I mean, it felt like a win for the Cubs to just take one in San Diego and win one in extras. I mean, that lineup, I think, is looking much deeper than we thought. They're getting a great season so far out of Gavin Sheets, which I think is a bit of a surprise coming over from the White Sox. Just I've seen a lot of that from White Sox fans just being like, man, we couldn't, some of them couldn't wait to get rid of him, and now he's crushing it in San Diego. The pitching staff is, been solid at the top with guys like Cease and them, and I think they'll get Darvish back at some point. The Dodgers are what we thought they were, I think, and I'm really looking forward to the Diamondbacks Cubs series this weekend. They got Burnes, Gallen, and then Merrill Kelly going at Wrigley. So I think it's been a division that I mean, we were all sitting here preseason saying like, oh, are the Dodgers going to threaten the wins record? And maybe they still do, but like, I think you're going to have a situation where this division could get 3 playoff teams and none of them make it easy for the Dodgers, just because of how deep some of the lineups are. You mentioned with the Diamondbacks and the top end of the pitching staff. It's going to be a fun division to watch all season.
No question about it. All right, last thing to kind of throw out there. Obviously, as we record this on Friday morning, we're deep into getting ready to roll for a bunch of really good weekend series. Brady, are there any series or two that's kind of jumping out to you that you're looking forward to watching this weekend?
Mariners, Blue Jays, but I'd like if I could actually watch it. I am so sick of every baseball broadcast, every sports broadcast being fractured. I know I'm 35. This is going to make me sound 75. I cut cable like 7 years ago, so I'm well versed in cord cutting, but these Apple TV games I have absolutely no time for. Mariners Blue Jays will be a good one on Friday. I will not be able to watch it. That irritates me to no end between Amazon Prime and YouTube TV and Fubo and MLB TV and NFL Sunday Ticket and NBA League Pass and ESPN Plus and all these other things to watch sports. I just can't do the Apple TV stuff. So please, let's be done with that in the future. There's my old man rant for the day.
Okay, well, you are a homeowner now too. So while you're at it, just tell everybody to get off your lawn too while you're at it.
Yes,
okay?
absolutely. They can get off my lawn with that. Yeah. But yes, Mariners, Blue Jays, I'm looking forward to. The Blue Jays are a team that I just can't quit. They finished last year, but they were in the playoffs 2 years before that. I think they're good. Chris Bassett's been amazing. ERA under 1 so far. So I'm interested in seeing that. Mariners, Blue Jays for sure. And then seeing if the Red Sox can play better, right? They're playing the White Sox. They should, but they just lost 2 of 3 to the White Sox last weekend. And the Red Sox are the team I thought was going to the World Series. So to be 10-10, lead the world in errors, and have lost 2 of 3 to the White Sox, they got to get that turned around. Maybe they do that this weekend.
Absolutely. And all my Vancouver friends will tell us that Mariners Blue Jays is the battle of Canada's 2 teams. So we'll certainly look at that as well. But I'm excited. I'm obviously going to be in the ballpark for Yankees Rays this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I've sort of dubbed this the landlords versus tenants series, with the Rays using the Yankees spring training facility all year. And the Yankees are there as visitors this weekend. And Kevin Cash told a great story yesterday about how when he walked into the manager's office at Steinbrenner Field, that there was a nice note there from Aaron Burns with a bottle of tequila about take good care of the place. So it's even though these guys are arch rivals, it's certainly Rays Yankees is always a big deal. And obviously, all of those transplanted New Yorkers who live in Florida will take over the ballpark like they did at Tropicana Field. And certainly be a good atmosphere. I'm looking forward to tonight, and really looking forward. Drew Rasmussen pitches for the Rays tonight, and he's been terrific so far. Just 1 earned run in 3 starts, 0.60 ERA. So looking forward to that. Also looking forward to paying attention to the Dodgers and the Rangers. We talked about both of those teams today during the podcast, and they're getting together in Arlington for a weekend series, and Yamamoto against DeGrom tonight. So that should be a good one as well too. So Jack, how about you? What do you got looking? I know you mentioned Cubs Diamondbacks. Anything else jumping out at you that you're looking forward to watching this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I think when are we gonna see the Braves start to turn it around soon? They host the Twins. I think that could be an interesting one. Maybe a get right series for the Braves with all the injuries that the Twins have had. I know they got Chris Sale going on Saturday, I think. Sort of been waiting for them. I know they're playing a little bit better recently, but sort of been waiting for the Braves to really turn it on. So maybe this weekend is an opportunity for them at home.
Absolutely, should be a fun weekend. I think we're getting deeper into the month of April now, starting to see some trends a bit, and certainly seeing some guys jump out at us, and some really good pitching going on too. I always enjoy watching Logan Webb, and this Giants team has been fun to watch, and he's pitching tonight. The Angels, just their second series of the year at home. So plenty of good baseball going on, and lots to watch and look forward to. So guys, I appreciate the time as always. I always enjoy these chats on the Payoff Pitch podcast. It's just amazing how fast 35 minutes flies by when we're talking baseball with the 3 of us. So it's all been great. So thanks, guys. Appreciate it. And we'll look forward to chatting again next week on the Playoff Pitch podcast.